listen in the place where you are. Turn north towards patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, where you can support us. And we'll continue to talk about the weather and the government and everything, R.E.M. with your support. So if you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, you can help that out and be a world leader for real. All these references will make sense. If you don't listen to the screen, you'll know them after the episode. This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to File Underwater, the show where we try to convince you that R.E.M. has not sold out.
And this week we are talking about Green, which was released on November 7th of 1988. Man, that sellout thing. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the point at which the oral history just becomes this bloodbath. It's just who's insecure in Athens, Georgia in 1988, so...
They called it Green because it's money, man.
It's like that has to be like at least they knew that was coming.
Well,
if not intentional, right? Like they were just like, we're gonna get called out for this. If not, they're idiots.
Yeah, if it was intentional, and they gave a lot of reasons for why they went with this title. If it was intentional, it was probably meant as like a goofy, semi-tone deaf R.E.M. joke.
Yes. Yeah. Bad optics.
Bad optics. God. Fuck. I feel like it just got doused with douche water. Jesus.
Yeah, it's just optics are in the news today. Yeah. So today we're talking about Green, the first kind of major label album from R.E.M. and like a good like place for this demarcation point.
Yeah.
Of the band, like the IRS years and the Warner Brothers years, like early Warner Brothers stuff feel very different.
They certainly do. Going from Document, which is this incredibly, let's say crunchy, incredibly dark, incredibly loud, very political album, to something that is not as gentle as people, I think, say, through and through. Like anytime you generalize about an R.E.M. album, there's going to be an exception on it. But they decided to shake things up. Warner didn't get the band that they thought they were buying.
Yeah, which I appreciate again, and that kind of like kind of weird R.E.M.y jokey kind of way almost like just kind of this is what you're getting.
Yep. Offer me $10 million. Here's a mandolin. Bring.
Yeah, it's just y'all got mandolin. Hey, Warner Brothers, you just got mandolin. I went to my KRS-One video voice for that because I'm really excited about next episode.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, it's I'll save it for that. Yeah. So this was released on November 7th, 1988. And so that's Election Day.
Yes.
1988. And this is an explicitly like had a political kind of release to it.
Yeah, they actually thought about buying ads saying, hey, there are two things you can do on Election Day. Go vote and then maybe buy this album.
And vote for, not just vote for.
Yeah, but vote for Mike Dukakis.
He was the son of Greek immigrants.
He wore a helmet once in a tank.
Yeah. Little Mike Dukakis. Yeah. I only know Mike Dukakis from jokes about him on The Critic.
Oh yeah.
But the they did take out ads. They didn't take out that ad. But Michael Stipe personally took out ads in college newspapers saying, "Don't get bushwhacked. Yeah. Get out and vote smart, Dukakis."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He structured his argument as though it was a Burma shave ad.
Yeah. Yeah, but and instead we got George Bush Sr. And what a mild monster he turned out to be in the. It's still like the stuff like tripping over themselves to congratulate him are ridiculous, but
yeah,
it's just like Michael, it can get worse. No, Michael, campaign harder.
Yeah, please. We need to stop this as soon as we can.
Put Mills on the case.
Yeah.
So this and it wasn't always called Green. Again, they kind of changed it to that. They listed all those reasons, like environmental reasons, kind of naivete,
Yes.
Something kind of being green.
Getting a new start was another one that I saw. Like, hey, we're a new band, we're on a new label. Like, this is REM 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But their original title was Think Tank Decoy. Which have we had a original title or working title yet that wasn't awful?
No, we haven't.
they're all universally pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And Think Tank Decoy, like, I don't know, it just makes me think of Heart Spark $.
Oh yeah,
that Stone Temple Pilot song or something. Like, it just sounds like that cadence I don't like.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's definitely, it doesn't roll off the tongue. And green is nice and ambiguous. You can kind of project it. I mean, personally, I think that the political angle of it is, not so much just like, hey, the Green Party or whatever, but green environmental politics. We're going to see a little bit more of that on their tour, and also on the around the release of Out of Time.
Yeah.
But so there's that, and then also on their tour for this, they allowed Greenpeace. They invited Greenpeace to come and like set up tables in the lobbies of the places where they played.
Yeah,
so.
And they had to, because if they had named it Think Tank Decoy, there just would have been, the Center for Constitution Justice or whatever set up in a little tent.
Yeah.
Like, again, I can't think of any actual like think tanks, but they always have names like that.
Yeah.
So this is the big thing here, kind of career wise, was leaving IRS.
Yes.
One of the things that people need to remember, though, is that IRS, like, they haven't really been on like a truly indie label.
No.
It reminds me of how games like are, where like, oh, this is indie, but it's like, no, it was actually published by Microsoft.
Yeah, Devolver's like a huge publisher now.
Yeah, Devolver is huge, so it's indie, but it's like middleweight.
Yeah,
and IRS has always been middleweight. They haven't been like an indie label since like Hibtone.
Right.
IRS had major distribution. It was done through AMA. Like it was a big deal.
Yeah. They were always hooked up to the apparatus.
Yes.
And credibility is a marketing ploy a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
Punk was a mistake. But yeah, like that. So like that is something to keep in mind when you look at this. That is not to say that IRS didn't understand that R.E.M. wanted to move on to greener pastures, right? They were aware that they had a chance of losing them, and kind of frequently, after they got about 2 albums out, started trying to renegotiate the terms for them, like saying like, hey, we'll give you more money in exchange for extending our engagement, beyond these 5 albums, right?
Yeah, and they never wanted to do that, and for multiple reasons. Like when they ultimately ended up signing up for Warner Brothers, one of the reasons why it was hard, or why the reason they were reluctant, is like there's interviews where multiple members of the band more or less said the reason why we were reluctant to go move to this major label was not because it was a major label, but because we weren't sure we wanted to make 5 more R.E.M. albums ever, period.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is signing up for being a band for another 10 years or so. And it wasn't like it was like dark times. It wasn't like they were, hated each other or wanted to break up. It just, it's a big commitment.
Yeah, they've always been a band that has done a ton of other stuff on the side. And we're going to see like this happens, and they fall kind of face first into a really onerous touring situation. That is the direct result a little bit of the wider kind of global distribution that they get through Warner Brothers and through WEB.
And the weirdest thing is that it's their best tour.
Right.
Like at least as far as that's been documented. Like I think this is the best this tour, they're just doing their best work. And that shows up even like I was like, oh, this is my bias. But again, it shows up in that oral history. Like even scenesters who are like fuck these guys, they used to be my friend and now they won't say hi, are still just like, yeah, they did a really good show that tour.
Yeah.
Like I saw them at the end. They were so obviously burnt out. They would just go back to their dressing room and not talk to anybody afterwards. But they just put on this amazing show.
Yeah.
And like just contrast it with like the work tour stuff that we, that's in the show notes and that we listened to for the last tour. And it's like, I don't know if it's just a function of better, like it could literally be better equipment and sound.
Yeah.
Better venues. So like a better way to record this, but they just sound so much better.
Yeah.
And they're just not, they don't feel like they're phoning it in at all. Like it doesn't have that kind of like Michael Stipe's just going to get kind of, baby and just start making noises in the middle of a song. They're off key. Right. And they just don't do that during this tour.
No. It's remarkable. Like, I tend to, let's say, skip around some of those live sections on the deluxe editions that we get, this one I listened to it straight through because it was so good, because it was this sampling across their entire career and even projecting a little bit forward into the future a little bit like they tend to do. It's fantastic. They've been very reluctant to release live albums, at least up to this point. who knows if that was a mistake or not, but like this is good stuff that is worth hearing.
Yeah. And the secret to it, and we'll talk a little bit more about the tour in general, but like the secret is everything's 10% faster.
Yeah.
Like if you want to make a good live sounding thing, just make everything about 10% faster and it will sound high energy and cool, you know? Yeah. So as we mentioned, IRS was trying to keep them pretty desperately, but IRS, it is hooked up to that major label apparatus, but it had shitty distribution overseas specifically.
Yeah, count the number of past episodes where we talked about the bad experiences they had in Europe.
Yeah. And that could be, you can find on YouTube kind of like these big crowded shows that are done in Berlin and London and stuff. But you can imagine just like this band that with their selling out shows in their home in the United States, going over to Europe and like having half filled rooms and stuff, and people not being able to find their record. Like they hear about that stuff. And like, on one level, I could see that being, it feels like a minor concern, like, oh, the distribution, will it play in China kind of thing. Feels a little douchey and money, but, because of these guys' history and kind of the trust they built up, I believe them when they just said, like, well, just people want to hear it. We want them to be able to hear it.
Yeah.
They want it, and we want them to be able to get it, and this is what that takes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I like Peter Buck literally said almost exactly that in talking about like they took a little bit of a defensive tone around some of those things, but like it is a smart business move and it is a smart artistic move at this level. It feels like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like as this was going on, they didn't really tour that extensively for Document. Their last big tour was the Work Tour, right? And we got a little bit of their live act around Document, and it wasn't that great. IRS was pushing them to do it. They were kind of gearing up for this until they got this shop around from Warner Brothers for a lot of reasons. Like we said, they went with Warner Brothers. One of the big ones was Warner had a history of just kind of staying out of artist shit. They were not really meddlesome in the studio.
Yes, and they gave him $10 million.
Which was less money. It was less money than other people had offered them. But in another smart move, Warner Brothers also set the terms where R.E.M. owned the masters. They just Warner just leased them from the band, which is gigantic.
And it's also just gigantic because so it's a 5-album, $10 million deal, right? So we have Green, Out of Time, huge hits. Automatic for People, huge hit. Monster, not a huge hit. New Adventures in Hi-Fi, not a huge hit.
Right.
Like, those albums, specifically New Adventures, I really love. Like, I don't love Monster. I like Monster, but I love New Adventures. But it wasn't, I remember even at the time being like a little scuttlebutt about it being commercially unsatisfying. So they decided to go for it, like despite and that's the risk you're taking if you just give somebody carte blanche to make things. There's a really, really cute story in the oral history about a guy. He worked for Warner Brothers, and he used to go to this golf course all the time. And people would come and be like, "Oh, you work in the record industry?" And he'd be like, "Yeah." Like, "Well, here, my son has a band." He'd give him these tapes, and the tapes were always bad. And he said one time this guy comes up to him and says like, "Hey, you work in the record industry? My son's in a band." And the guy's just like, "Oh, this again?" He's like, "Yeah, he's in a band called R.E.M." And the record industry guy's like, "Oh, okay, well, have a nice day." Like, just thought he was fucking with him. And then, they signed R.E.M. And then he, at the party, he asked Mike Mills, he's like, "Hey, does your dad like ever, go golfing?" He's like, "Yeah, he goes golfing at this club." And he's like, "Oh shit." Like I just, was super rude to Mike Mills' dad. And then went back to go golfing again. And Mike Mills' dad, because he's Mike Mills' dad, and it's just like the plight, he just goes, "Hey, thank you for making my son a millionaire."
Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, does it?
Mike Mills' dad, smiling politely. It's like a very sweet story of just like, like we're a millionaire. You just imagine like Mike Mills. Gee golly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Very cute.
Yeah. And like R.E.M. got along with them too. Like there are stories about the band not like big timing even just the regular rank and file staff at the label, like it was a good working relationship. Like this was not characterized, at least so far, by friction, right? Which is not the story. Like you never see that in the history of rock and roll. There's always this outward hostility between bands and their labels and bands and the press. That just never happens with these guys.
Yeah. And there's like, there is kind of a little bit between some members of IRS and a lot of those old scene people, and it varies. Like, I mentioned, came up a little bit in the last episode. It varies how much credence I give that stuff.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like, oh, like, these people are jealous, or like maybe, R.E.M. were being weird. Like there's a lot of reports of them right around this time in the next album getting very paranoid. Like a lot of people who would be like, oh, like, they would do a advertising thing, like a billboard or something, that came out for this. And then R.E.M. would call, like a radio station would talk about it. And R.E.M. would call this radio station and be like, we had nothing to do with that. We didn't even know it was happening. And then other people be like, that's 100% not true. Like I was there when they, agreed to it. So like there's this, and it reminds me of their whole, like, oh, we didn't even work on that. Like this, we recorded that all in 4 minutes and put it down.
Yeah.
Like there's this weird rush to like defensively disown things that they have that I think ultimately it was probably valuable towards them staying regular dudes. Like that's a self-deception that allowed them to maintain their identity.
Right.
It feels like to me.
Yeah.
So there were some kind of changes. They were kind of like shitty to some members of IRS. Some people in IRS were hurt. Some were not.
Yeah, specifically Jay Boberg, as far as I know, is still salty about it to this day. He like just really heartbroken about this. So there's a quote in the book that I read, Perfect Circle. I think injustice occurred in that the little guy got beaten out for no apparent obvious reason. I can't begin to tell you that I'm not still bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, which like understandable, but like silly too.
Yeah. Yep, but it ended up working out for them. It like, I mean, not for IRS, but for R.E.M. themselves and for Warner.
And IRS is fine.
Yeah,
like IRS is still around and like put out lots of stuff that people were like their place in the ecosystem as like an incubation label is fine.
Yeah,
we need those. So when they sat down in the studio to make this album, they very specifically said like, hey, like we need to make this different. Like, and of course, like it feels like a demarcation, like we're on a new label. Let's do something really different. And they said like, let's not play any more R.E.M. songs.
Yeah. Like that was almost exactly Michael Stipe's words around this. Yeah. So like no more of those things that we just call like the bog standard. I forget what our word was for them, but those mid-tempo minor key things that Peter Buck says they could write in their sleep, Yes. And they and it's funny because like those things are important to R.E.M. I like those things. They didn't actually stop. They just stopped the things that they consider that to be. Cause so like Losing My Religion is that. Yeah. Like Losing My Religion is an R.E.M. song. Like, yeah. And by any means, but them trying not to make it allowed them to kind of branch out in these different ways. There's like a demo for this I couldn't find, for the next album called The Last R.E.M. Song. Oh, wow. Because of that, like they were just like, this is that kind of song. Let's get the poison out.
Let's get the poison out. And I couldn't find it. I think it is actually around somewhere, but I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
One of the things they did to kind of like change that up and not make the same old songs is they switched instruments.
Yeah. So Bill Berry, dropped the drums and he would go over and start playing bass. Mike Mills wanted to play keyboards, so that's what he did. And there's a ton of like organ and mellotron on this on this album. And Peter Buck was like, I'm competent at guitar. That's what I've gotten to. I want to go to something I'm uncomfortable with. So he went to the mandolin.
Yeah, which we'll kind of ride out with the next couple albums.
Yeah.
Bill Berry doesn't play drums on 4 tracks.
Right.
Of this album. And this album's 11 songs. So more than a third of it, like he doesn't play on.
Right.
So another thing that happened is Stipe began kind of writing these lyrics in these initial stages when things were just being written.
Right.
And you hear more tales. This has always kind of been an R.E.M. thing, but you hear more tales of him kind of writing based on these snippets or based on like these small kind of like little bits of things and then getting kind of get developed. And one of the things, we record these in batches. It's the reason why I keep bringing up Out of Time, but they also have very similar approaches. when we get to the next episode, we'll talk about because it actually the reissue gives us a window into that process.
Yeah,
and it's awesome
in a super educational way.
Yeah, it like only for us. Like it's like between the two of us, we're 75% of the people who are interested in that. Like it's ridiculous, but it's really cool, to read about, in Green, this method that they were using, this kind of switching instruments and this kind of these jams, and then see how it actually kind of worked out.
Yeah. To get like a step-by-step kind of versioning of it almost. Yeah. It's really cool, but you can hear it. Like it does bring something new to this. It's about getting out of comfort zones. And
I can say just real quick too, like, and this is, I know I keep bringing this up on the network just because I'm excited about it, but since I've been learning to play the ukulele, like I started writing songs on it, and I'm writing different songs that I would write on a keyboard. Like it literally, like a level of expertise or like proficiency will definitely change what the kind of things you make.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like when you first start doing anything, you can make something that's very amateurish and it doesn't seem that way to you. Like, the first song that I ever wrote on keyboard, like, was super, super simple, but it felt really cool to me because it was done.
Yeah.
And, and because I did it, it doesn't matter how sophisticated it was. It just felt cool.
Yeah.
And recapturing that is all over this record. So like a bunch of these super simple pop songs and like, you can tell that's what it is. It's like, oh, this is the kind of thing if somebody didn't usually play an instrument and stumbled across this, they would think it's the coolest sounding thing in the world.
Yeah. It's a confidence move, right? Like they were relatively assured that their songwriting, for lack of a better word, expertise would carry them through. And actually, like, it doesn't matter if we are, physically doing something that is different, like us working together, we'll make something out of it.
Our instincts will carry us through.
Yes.
And like, we haven't really said this yet, but I really love this album.
Oh, it's
I think
so
that
good.
I think that they're correct. Like, I think this is a really good R.E.M. album.
Yeah. Like with one notable hiccup, and we'll talk about it when we get to the track by track.
Ooh. I'm curious. I want to know what your hiccup. I don't know what your hiccup is.
With one notable hiccup, I think that this is like front to back, one of the most satisfying complete albums we've seen in a while. Like, I don't think that there is there is not a noticeably weak side here.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. And actually, like, I like the next album too.
Yeah.
I don't think I like it quite as much, but it's also very good.
Yeah.
So this was recorded in Ardent Studios, which is where Big Star recorded, which makes tons of sense. They share tons of musical DNA.
Right.
They recorded about 3 months, and Scott Litt returned to produce, and he will produce the next few albums.
Yeah.
Scott Litt's going to be around.
Yeah. 3 months. They said like, oh yeah, that's way too much time to record an album. That would have been incredibly strenuous for any other band, but R.E.M, they work.
Oh, we just tossed it off in a couple minutes.
Oh, it's no problem. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, you like that? Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't like it, actually. I think it's not very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. R.E.M's mantra is, "Oh, you like that?"
Actually, it's bad. So,
and speaking of actually, it's bad. The critics didn't get it. It didn't get a very good reception. It's always funny, actually, when you see something like this. This happened with Murmur as well. When a publication issues a review that is really hostile, but then let's say 2 or 3 years later, maybe sometimes even a decade later, they re-review it and bump the score higher.
Yeah, yeah. It really famously happened with Pinkerton, Weezer from Pitchfork.
Yeah,
that's the kind of example.
Yeah, but like Pitchfork is like the patient zero for that shit.
Yeah. Which is, it's fine. Like you can reconsider something in its own time. Like, I think that's fine to do. Reviews are only ever a snapshot.
Yeah.
It's just, but it just goes to show you to like be questioned. When you're like something, you hear this and it's like, this is challenging. To not immediately mistake that for bad. Like, unless it's Dark Souls 3, but especially if it's Dark Souls 2. So yeah. So you thought with Bonfireside Chat retiring that stuff would end, but it's only going to get worse.
Oh, no.
Now it's an external example.
Yeah, now it's in the blood. The appendix is burst.
Yeah, it's time to go.
So the commercial success was also a really slow burn too. And this is attributed, at least in the book that I read, to the fact that over the 18 months prior to the release, they also put out Document, Dead Letter Office, and Eponymous.
Yeah,
they worked way too fast. Document's tail stomped on that, and then all of these reissues that IRS did with their involvement actually just kind of oversaturated them a little bit.
Yeah, even though eventually this did become a huge hit. And like Stand was a huge single. Stand is one of those REM songs that everyone in the world knows.
Of course. Rightfully so.
Yeah, because that's a great song.
Yeah.
So and eventually, like, it even outsold Document, which had the one I love, which is a huge hit, as we talked about. Yeah. And that is directly due to that greater kind of global distribution,
right?
That they have.
Yep. You just it's a different carrying capacity. You operate on a different level.
I have a story real quick, again, from the oral history that I want to tell about this reception.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a guy who reviewed it named David Lindsay, and they were doing this tour, and one of their friends who worked with REM invited him to the tour. He's like, "Hey, it's sold out. Would you come?" He's like, "I don't really want to come," because he didn't like the album. He had written a pretty shitty review of it. Right. And she's like, "No, I'd like to see you. You can come. You can invite somebody." He asked around. Nobody he knew could go, but a friend of a friend went, who was like a 16-year-old girl who loved REM. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to come. I'm going to bring this kid." He gets to the venue. He says like, "Hey, is there some tickets for me? For David Lindsay?" And the person at the desk is like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "What? Are there no tickets?" He's like, "Well, there's a package for you."
Uh-oh.
And hands him an envelope.
Did it contain human shit?
Well, not quite. Oh, just about, though. It said it was a package. Inside it had a clipping of the review he had made. And it said, "No way, not with a review like this. You've got to walk it like you talk it. Signed, JMS." And he was like, "Oh, this is a mistake. Like, Liz, told me there'd be tickets. Who's JMS?" And I go, "That's Michael Stipe. Like, it's like John Michael Stipe, who did it." And he was just like, "Oh, fuck." And there's, and he's super upset about it and everything. And he's like, "If I ever see that guy again, I'm going to punch him in the nose." Okay. And he's super pissed about it. He's like, "This guy thinks he's so big, but he broke this girl's heart." And like, obviously Michael Stipe didn't know that he was bringing a 16-year-old fan who
right
never seen the band or anything like that. But, and then the funny thing at the end, so he took the letter, and he sent Michael Stipe a postcard that said, "Thank you for your autograph, Michael. I sold it for a large sum of money and gave the money to Operation Rescue in your name." Liz took that to Michael. Michael looked at the card and said, "He's got my address now." "Who's Operation Rescue anyway?" She tried to explain it to him, and he said, "Well, at least he gave it to a cause." And then that's the end of
at least
their interactions.
I was hoping it would be like, oh, that 13-year-old and him, Lindsay, got passes to another show in the region or something like that.
No. Yeah, it didn't. It ended way after that, because that's one of the things that's again, with everybody being like, yeah, REM is sold out and kind of shitty now. Yeah, is that like they are recruiting themselves like. Mm-hmm. People have to interact through their management. Right. There's a lot of people in the oral history who heard about having to talk to Jefferson Holt. They're like, I wouldn't even hear from Michael. I would hear from Jefferson, who told, like, ask me information passed on from Michael. Like, ask, like, where, what the phone numbers were for our mutual friends and shit.
Oh, wow.
Like, hey, would you call my friend and ask them this thing? It's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
So, but that story is just, like, really interesting. And it's like, again, it seems kind of dicky, but I can also see, like, as somebody whose work gets reviewed, mm-hmm. Like the guy who wrote the like Bonfireside Chat Has Fallen from Grace review, if he wanted to get into the Bonfireside Chat live show with like free tickets, like fuck that guy. I wouldn't give that guy free tickets to the show.
Right.
I get that impulse.
Yeah. It's one of those things. As an outsider, you want to say, I'd hope you would be more gracious than that. As somebody who can relate, it's like, yeah, that makes a little bit of sense. Like
people read that shit.
I could like that. That could do. I don't know. I was about to say that could do some damage, but that I don't want to walk down that road. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's fine to do that kind of. It's fine to write whatever kind of review you want, but don't go expecting favors. Is the thing. Yeah. So it's weird how much I personally am kind of projecting creative and business values from REM onto myself and vice versa. Like, I admire so much about what they do in the way that they operate, and want to take lessons and smile at myself when I see us operating in, like ways that, like, in my petty little mind think like, oh yeah, that feels similar to like how I feel, what I value. That those little anecdotes actually are kind of disappointing. Like, I don't know that I would actually do that. If like literally somebody who did that, like, asked for a free ticket or something like that, I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't give it to him. I don't know if I would do the whole showmanship thing. Yeah.
Where I would be like, make sure he knows he's fucked. Yep. I don't think I would do that, but I would be like, oh no, like, nah. Yeah. I don't know you anything.
What that says to me is that Michael Stipe was carrying that grudge around and had that set up. Like, he's basically insecure artist Batman at that point.
Oh, I don't know if he was. I imagine the woman said like, hey, I hope it's all right, but I invited X. And he was like, oh no, I don't think he was just had that as a standard contingency for every show.
He just watching okay, we're going to this city. I know this. Yeah. That's where this critic lives. Here are the packets.
Would you get Jefferson Holt to call this guy and ask if this critic's in the city? I don't think that. I think it's probably his management said like, hey, I invited this guy. He's like, oh, I wish you hadn't done that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't like when you say carrying it around, like it was recent. They were on the tour and the album just came out.
Yeah.
You like put like all this time into something you just make and just have somebody take a shit on it, especially if it's somebody you had a working relationship with before. Like that's got to feel bad.
Yeah.
I was looking around for the review. I didn't look very hard, so it might be out there, but I didn't find it. I want to find it and see if it was particularly like eviscerating.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean,
so I get it.
Yeah.
I guess is my point.
Yeah. I can see. I can see both perspectives on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't. And if I knew about the girl, like, and again, Michael Stipe didn't know about the girl. The guy was saying like, oh, he crushed this girl's dream. What an asshole. He didn't know.
Yeah.
Like he didn't know that like, oh, there's a 16-year-old fan who really loves us who's completely innocent. Fuck her.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't know that.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Anyway, let's talk about that tour.
Yeah, they toured for 11 months. I cannot imagine being on the road for 11 whole months.
That's a lot.
I can't imagine. Like, I get exhausted driving 8 hours to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And to have them be in different countries and stuff like that. Like, it's understandable that they got pretty burned out.
They also, I think because it was such a huge tour. This is the first tour that they had a determined like set list. Like they didn't play everything in the exact same order, but they're like, we're going to play with encores, we're going to play like 22 or 23 songs. 20 of those have to be, we have to play 20 of those.
Right.
Like these are the songs everyone wants to hear. This is what we're going to do. And because of that, they played them over and over and over and just got them so ridiculously tight. And that's part of the reason why the tour like sounds so good.
Yeah. There were no like audibles called on a whim. Like, let's promote Feeling Gravity's Pull up to,
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Or just, oh, fuck it. Let's do, I don't know, body count. Like you're not doing that. So
yeah. So they were out there doing this. There's a story here. Bill Berry was bitten by a tick in Georgia, and by the time he got over to Germany, he came down with something called Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever.
This wasn't in my book. I didn't know about
that. I haven't Googled it. I made a note of it. I want to see what the symptoms of that are because that doesn't sound good. Sounds like something that involves hives.
It poisons the caterpillar that lives above your eyes, so it falls off. And he had to wear a face merkin for the rest of the tour while it grew back.
Jeez, this Wikipedia image is really upsetting. Holy shit!
Yeah. Also upsetting, like I should go look at it, or upsetting, like I shouldn't go look at it.
I mean, it's not like open suppurating sores on private parts, but it's like it's a picture of a hand that has like pox and hives.
Oh yeah, that's
all over it. Yeah, it's really it's the most lethal, most frequently reported rickettsial illness in the United States. Done by transmitted by ticks. That's horrible.
Ticks. Yeah,
fuck. Man, Bill Berry has a terrible run on tours. He's not
made for it.
Yeah, no, I mean
farm life.
Yeah, I mean, just as so Mike Mills is kind of right there behind him, but yeah, Bill Berry, I feel bad for him. Like they canceled the shows and then they just kind of rescheduled them for later. I feel bad for laughing about Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever. That sucks.
No, I think it's okay. I forgive you. So the album, other than the Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever, they did very well. The album started to really take off in the UK. Right. And they ended up doing Top of the Pops, which is kind of a big deal. That's a rite of passage.
Right.
And Top of the Pops is entirely like I don't know if it's entirely, but every performance I remember seeing is lip synced.
Yeah, it's known for being incredibly superficial, right?
Yeah. It's like Soul Train.
Yeah.
Like it's like the Soul Train in Britain.
Yeah.
Soul Pram. I don't know. Soul Lori.
No. Yeah, Soul Lori.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's just ridiculous to think of Michael Stipe, who hates lip syncing, had never done it in his videos, or had rarely done it in his videos up to that point, getting up there for all the world to see while people just gyrate around him.
It changes now, though. Like, this is where the lip syncing begins.
Oh yes, yeah, which is fine. I mean,
who cares?
Yeah,
like it's again, like it was a cool thing early on, but it wasn't like REM is good because they don't lip sync during music videos.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So for as successful as the European tour was, thanks to Warner and WEB, the American tour was not so hot. They came back and were, kind of for the first time in a while, selling to venues in America that were not entirely sold out. And this had to do with partially with them being in an awkward spot between playing theaters and playing arenas.
Yes, this was them. This was a function of them playing bigger things.
Yeah. And so, like, again, being defensive about selling out, they said, hey, we need to play arenas. We need to have more seats open, because what we don't want to have happen is for us to play a smaller venue. Yeah, exactly. And have a longtime fan come up and say, hey, I paid $200 to get into this show.
Yeah. So it was I mean, they did have shows that were sold out,
right,
but it was inconsistent. But I mean, it still ended up being like a financially successful and artistically successful tour.
Right.
They were gone for 11 months. Like, you make a lot of money in 11 months.
Yeah.
Working every night for that time. Absolutely. Like, one of the interesting things is they did at the end of the tour, they did this benefit show in Atlanta, and it was like near the end, and you could tell they're kind of burnt out. And since they were and they're in Georgia, in their hometown, before they played their tour set, they played Murmur in its entirety.
Holy shit! Right.
Which is like, and there's like, it shows up in the oral history as just this kind of thing. Like, they started with Radio Free Europe, and they're like, oh, cool, like they're pulling out an oldie, and then they played Pilgrimage, and like, oh, and then they played Laughing, and it's like, oh shit, and the weird thing, it was like a benefit thing, and they just did Murmur front to back, and then Green front to back.
Oh wow!
And just played those two albums.
That makes sense, because they have a lot in common, actually.
Oh yeah. It's a weird. I've seen. I went and saw Stephen Malkmus and the Jicks, which is Stephen Malkmus's band.
Yeah, that's great.
And they did that. They played. Did a show, and they're like, this song is the first song, and I was expecting it to be the first song of the first album, but they played like Summer Girl, Winter Version, or whatever, the first song on the first Pavement album, and just played the first Pavement record in its entirety, like front to back. Which, like, for me, I like Pavement. The first record's not my favorite. So for me, it was like a little bit of a bummer. Yeah. But people went like ape shit.
Right.
Like people were crazy for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah. No. I don't know. Here's Stephen Malkmus. Of all the things he's associated with, I know him. I like him most from the Silver Jews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was non sequitur. I just wanted to say I really love the Silver Jews.
So Silver Jews are good. Silver Jews, I think, are one of the very, like, not few, but like, it's a band that I think is good mostly because of the lyrics. Yeah, which is something I think rarely. But the Silver Jews are really like David Berman, right? That's the other guy in the Silver Jews. He's got he's an excellent poet. You can buy collections of his poetry, and it's really good.
Yeah, and that's why I like them. I like their lyrics an awful lot. Like, it's them and the National. Like, both of those feel very similar to me. Yeah. That was a weird little hipster digression.
Impressed ladies.
Ooh. No. Can you tell I worked in college radio? So towards
when
the end,
Pandora says you might also like, I listen.
When Pandora talks, I my ears perk up.
People say, for people who like Pavement, you might like other bands that Pavement is in. I take their word for it, baby.
So the book that I read kind of talked about tour film, which is kind of the closest thing they got for a while to a live album. Talked about that in relation to, like, them seeing the writing on the wall for, like, hey, maybe touring in America isn't going to work so much for us anymore, and also feeling pretty burnt out, saying, like, if we're not going to tour a lot in the very near future, let's capture as much of this as we can. So over the course of four performances, they had a bunch of people film different things in different film formats and release that as a live concert video. Yeah,
and it's great, as we mentioned.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's the same thing that's on the Apple Music bonus version, 25th anniversary version. That live show is from that same tour. A lot of the performances are the same ones. It's fun to watch. Like, they did a bunch of weird, like, stadium trick stuff that is unusual. Like, they have like a projector that, like, greets the audience. Like, they don't come out until they start playing.
So they don't have to come out and say hello, Cleveland.
How you doing?
It projects how you doing, city name here.
Yep. So they do that, and it's kind of fun and goofy. And, like, Michael Stipe does these weird things where he bangs on a chair, but it sounds like it comes up through the mic and it sounds really good. It's a really good, like when I, in my obsessive, like younger teenager days, when I used to just collect like VHSs of these, that's how I'd watch REM videos, was getting these VHS tape compilations. This was a favorite. Like I watched this, more or less until it wore out.
Oh yeah.
So,
it's amazing. Like, I don't know, amazing. It's a very good choice that they did it in a bunch of different formats. So like you'll see from one angle, here is, here's a high 8. From the other angle, here's 16 millimeter. Like almost nothing was done, either in VHS or in 35 millimeter, like an actual pro shot concert would be. So like cutting between those makes for some pretty cool effects.
Yeah, it's really nice looking.
Yeah,
worth taking a look. What's going on with REM in their life at this point?
I've decided to name the section in the notes REM About Town.
Just to bring this up, this tour that they went on for Green, large portions of it were supported by Robin Hitchcock. I would have fucking killed to be at that show.
Yeah,
like because Peter Buck was like the fifth Egyptian. Like he used to play with or the fifth Soft Boys. Like he used to play with Robin Hitchcock before his solo thing.
Yeah,
which like that makes me want to listen to those old records or look at them and see if because I love the Soft Boys. Like I like Robin Hitchcock a lot.
I assure you that Peter Buck contributed to one of those at some point.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I would have. That just makes the show like because I would love to see Robin Hitchcock.
It's kind of funny because around this area between this album and the next, they just start becoming musical buddies with people like Robin Hitchcock or people like Rocky Erickson. It's like, or just like, we're just gonna have Billy Bragg record his album in Peter Buck's studio. Like just these kind of luminaries of especially just kind of like crunchy progressive alt country.
It's specifically Peter Buck.
Yeah.
Like I think Peter Buck made these connections.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing, like because Peter Buck would just play with anybody. So if it was just like, hey, somebody says like, man, we need a second guitar on this record, like Peter Buck just shows up. It's like Beetlejuice.
He emerges from the wall.
Yeah. Your reflection slowly fades into him and he steps out of a mirror and picks up like a guitar and just starts like he knows the song already. It goes like this. It goes G, say no more.
Okay. Yep. I got you.
Like, I got you. It starts with G. Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff. So some things that they were doing around this time, Michael Stipe was pretty busy.
Cool. I stepped on your titling this section. I'm sorry, because I do think this is a funny title. Please say it.
This is REM About Town. Just things that they were doing before, during, and after the recording of this record. So Michael Stipe was he recorded Little April Showers with Natalie Merchant, which, boy, that sounds like a 10,000 Maniacs song.
It's a Disney compilation.
Yeah,
it's like all Disney songs, like reimagined by all kind of alternative bands, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And he also produced for his sister's band, Hetch Hetchy, which I was not able to find.
It's too bad of a band name. It's been struck from the internet.
Yep.
The whole band kind of worked on the debut album from the Indigo Girls, which is kind of interesting because that's a band I always see sentences referenced, but I never really listened to them.
Yeah, I know.
And unfortunately showed up like kind of too drunk to record on the first day.
Yeah.
But ultimately got their shit together.
Yeah, the next day.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Michael Stipe started a video company called C100. And after they kind of flamed out on producing like visual art to accompany music, started actually producing public service announcements, kind of in reaction to Ronald Reagan making it so that producing and airing PSAs was no longer mandatory. Yeah. So like he found a bunch of people, like he did one with KRS-One. Again, a preview of later.
Yep. This is when the Hindu Love Gods record came out. If you haven't listened to the Diggity Duck bundle, our charity bundle, $10 for, or however much you want to pay for 10 hours of shows. And the episode of File Underwater is about that album, which is not good, but I think the episode is good. I think this album is extremely bad, but I think the episode is fun. So
yeah, this was the collaboration with REM's playing members and Warren Zevon.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's no good. They recorded it 4 years before this, and Warren Zevon was just kind of like, my career could use a boost. So he pulled the release lever, and out it came.
Yep. Unleash the battleship chains. One of the things that happened here that's kind of sweet is that, you know, and in the case for R.E.M. not being sellout jerks, is that, you know, they constantly, you know, would talk about their influences. And they always talked about Pylon. That's how a lot of people heard about Pylon, myself included. So Pylon ended up getting back together. Like, it was like, these guys really like us. They reunited. They toured with them. They were on a couple of shows during this tour. And R.E.M. let them practice in their practice space when they reunited.
Yeah. This was kind of around the time. I wonder if it was linked with the release of Dead Letter Office and the cover of Crazy.
Yeah, the Crazy cover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shrug? Who knows? Peter Buck got married to his first wife, who was actually the owner of the 40 Watt Club, the club where they played a lot of their first shows. Her name was Barry. Yep, and you know, as happens, they're no longer together. But like, Peter Buck was like having a really sweet life around Athens. Here, he had a gigantic house and was building a studio. Like, it was, it's good to see them make good.
Yeah, I just Google image searched Barry Buck. Because sometimes I'm curious, like when somebody's married, somebody just wants to see what they look like. Yeah. And the first image is her with Snoop Dogg. Oh. So it's definitely her. It's Barry Buck and Snoop Dogg hanging out. It's pretty funny.
Fun.
The this is right when the R.E.M. fan club started, which is going to change kind of how we do the show. The things that are available to listen to that are unreleased tracks. They got a little bit more cagey about demos, starting with like automatic.
Right.
So it's hard to find demos of things. You can still find them sometimes, but it's a little bit harder. The next album is full of demos.
Yeah.
But like they're moving away from that slowly. We're gonna get lots of demos. I'm not saying that to contract that, but they started releasing just like more B-sides and then this fan club singles. So there end up being these kind of like R.E.M. rarities that would come out once a year, generally around Christmas. And it seems like it's one of those things where I want to go back in time and do it because they're really cool. They're records. You get 7-inch records, and they're like just the guys kind of fucking around in the studio usually and doing covers, but some of them are very good.
Yes.
And these are going to be part of the show going forward. Like, we're going to be able to talk about the fan club singles.
Yeah, and get used to us complaining about Christmas music.
Oh yeah, because none of them are good. They haven't done a good Christmas song.
Right.
So and they're just obviously drunk and just kind of like banging on shit.
Right.
And then pressing it to vinyl because it's for the super fans who like who like don't care. That sounds shitty, but they just don't care.
Right.
You know, so
they will eat out of Mike Mills's hand.
But then they also sneak in some really, really good covers,
of course,
and stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about the songs themselves. You know, we both have professed our affection for this album. They have gimmick names for the sides, and this is going to be one of the last ones that it comes out on a medium that has sides like this, kind of primarily. You know, Out of Time will have a CD release, and so here we are. Let's cherish this. It's separated into the air side and the metal side. And that feels like a little bit of an artifact of them initially wanting to have one side be primarily acoustic while having another side be primarily electric.
Yes, which it was also specifically, that's an artifact of Michael Stipe wanting to do an entirely acoustic record.
Right. And
the rest of the band not being down for that, which foreshadows Bill Berry demanding they make Monster.
Yes.
Which happens in a few albums down the road. So it begins with the air side. With Pop Song 89, which is one of, if not my favorite opening track.
It's so good.
That they've done. Yeah, I think this is a really, like, a bunch of the stuff that's on this record are like kind of dumb, ironic pop songs. They're so good though.
Yes.
Like, and this is you see, like, this is what happens when you're learning to play an instrument, right? Is Pop Song 89. Like, this is the kind of thing that sounds good because you're doing simpler stuff. And it sounds good to you because you're new to it. And something that, like, I mean, this has been a drum I beat 1,000 times, but like when people are dismissive of pop music, it drives me crazy.
Oh yeah.
Because like writing a good pop song is hard, like super, super hard. And the kind of the better you get at things, like you lose this kind of naivete that makes like good pop music, you know? So those people who are writing songs for like Taylor Swift and shit are like excellent songwriters.
Yeah.
Like that, those are good songs. Like you may not like the production, you might not like the lyrics, you might not even end up liking the actual melodies, but I can assure you, as somebody who knows like a little bit about some of this stuff, that like they're really well done. And this is like an excellent pop song.
This is incredibly good. I defy you to not just be instantly in love with this guitar riff around it.
Yeah. I hate that it's not at Voicebox.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, I always want to do, when I look at R.E.M. For karaoke, like this is a song that comes to mind a lot. And
And so, this could be seen as them taking, taking kind of an ironic shot. Oh, it's called Pop Song 89. This comes out right before 1989. And some of the interviews are like, oh, like, what if we wrote the last pop song ever? Like it is them kind of playing around with the form and trying to have some of this detachment, but they are just throwing their back into it entirely.
Yeah.
I love the harmonies on this. Just the fact that the entire thing is done incredibly tightly together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like close harmonies.
Yeah, it's almost doubled.
Yeah, and that's very different than the harmony kind of approach they take on Out of Time,
right?
Which we'll get to, which is much more kind of classic Beach Boysy. Yeah, not Beach Boysy, like Beach Boise, Idaho, which is a different.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the harmonies are very, very tight. The lyrics here also, something that they do in their dumb pop songs, I think, is get weird accidental profundity. Like I think that this is not like the lyrics are not, they're like super simple, right?
Right. Should we talk about the weather? Should we talk about the government?
But something about how this is kind of presented in this deadpan way, like actually makes it like kind of meaningful and good. Yeah. I think that's stronger in Stand.
Yes.
Like I think Stand is actually like a really good song lyrically, even though it's super simple and dumb circusy. But I think that like that's the lyrics of that song are actually very good. Because they're like so simple, again, like kind of going in with that naivete with instrumentation where it's like so simple that you wouldn't even consider it. When you take things that would be below consideration for lyrics, you oftentimes stumble upon really good lyrics.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so this song, they cited a Doors song as a reference, Hello, I Love You, which is about a dude really creeping on a woman.
Yeah.
Just
the Doors are gross.
Yeah. And I don't care for them one bit. This is kind of set up as a dialogue almost, where it's one side. It's like a Bob Newhart kind of thing of like somebody trying to make small talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's some like real classic Michael Stipe wankery where he talks about the lyrics to this, where he's like, actually, like, I think it's very deep because people used to be more like weather used to be more important in this country, which is like a true statement, but is also like a douchey thing to say, or just kind of like, oh, okay. Are you stoned? I don't know, but because the song's not really about that is the reason why. It's just like a lot, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't need him for this kind of sing along, kind of way. So there's this went through some. This was the third single on the record. I think it would have been a really good, lead single.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this is not the most popular radio song from the record. The demo for it. So one of the things about the demos that you can find for Green, and you can't find all of them, or I couldn't find all of them, is that they have document style production.
Yes.
So the guitar is so crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds exactly like an L7 song. Like if you know L7, like Let's Pretend We're Dead, that's what the L7 or what the demo of Pop Song 89 sounds like.
Yeah.
It'll be in the notes. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Like, listen to it and tell me that's not an L7.
I didn't like. I'm connecting it to the era, but you really surprised me with an L7 reference.
Like it's jung, 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 like I don't know. It sounds like L7 to me.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to sing on it.
No, so, it's like the harmonies, like they're done at different octaves, which helps them do them so tight. The low voice is incredibly high in the mix. To where it overpowers, and also it is out of key a lot of the time. Yeah. It's a demo. It wasn't meant for mass consumption. I don't know how they got from there to here.
Yeah. It's yeah. So there's a B-side version of this that is acoustic.
Yep.
That's not really. It's just worth noting. There's nothing really special about it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the acoustic version of the one I love. Like, yep, that sure is the song.
Yeah. And then the video has tits.
Yep.
So like as a kid, like I was way into this video because I think all these girls are pretty.
Yep.
And I like looking at all their boobs. So there we go.
Yeah. So the video for this, and obviously go to the notes and check this out. The video directed by Michael Stipe, I think, or at least conceptualized. Yes. It's him dancing with three female dancers, and they're all topless, but they're all dressed in like jester pants. Mm-hmm. So in the uncensored version, it's just them doing these, again, like really simple dances. It looks like something out of Stand almost, at this kind of canted angle that is shooting down the line at them, not really like focusing on the bare breasts. They're just kind of there. I like the censored version for as much as I'm a man who enjoys a breast. I like the censored version because, he sent it to MTV with censor bars not only over the women's breasts, but also over his own chest. Because a nipple is a nipple.
Yes. which I appreciate as well, of course.
It's a good video. Like it's super fun.
Yeah, everyone has this weird kind of like affect.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just think these ladies are pretty. I don't know. I like looking at pretty topless ladies. I think the censored version is funnier.
Yeah.
I don't get a whole lot of Michael Stipe's nipples. Like, that wasn't like a gay panic joke about you getting stuff out of them. I'm just saying about the second song, which is the fourth single, because they're just packing this A side with singles. Another song I really like, which is called "Get Up."
Yeah. Again, we have more tight harmonies. I wanted to save this for here because they're establishing a pattern. They're in major key.
Yeah.
And that is super refreshing in a huge way. Like both of these are, like they're not leaning on these super down kind of discordant, just kind of compositions. They're both like super bright.
Yeah. Yep. And this one too, this is one of my favorite differences between the live version and the album version. Mm-hmm. Like, I wish the album version was closer to the live version where it was 10% faster.
Yes. That
opening descending chord line just sounds so good a little bit quicker as it is. But this is a song kind of like roughly about dreams.
Mm-hmm. Which they've done. Like that is their milieu.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like playing to R.E.M's, usual tricks. One of the choruses or the bridge, I think, is dreams complicate my life. And then Mike Mills will come in and say, dreams complement my life. Mm-hmm. So again, just setting up these immediate contradictions.
Yeah. There's a bridge for this because they never really figured out what to do in the middle of the song, which you can hear because it's just, again, a simple song, musical naivete. Bill Berry had a dream where they set up 12 music boxes. So they sent everybody who
not
was
11,
in the studio.
Not 13, 12.
Yeah, that's a specific quote. It's really weird. But then sent everybody in the studio like, hey, we need music boxes. And all these people went to like their grandparents' house and shit to grab music boxes. And then they set them up to play in this middle section that like, I was like, oh, that was a lot of effort. Like this was born from a dream and was people making special trips and all these things for like this. Like it doesn't sound that different than one music box.
Right.
Like
here's the secret. One music box doesn't sound very good.
No, they're already pretty cacophonous. So like, yeah.
But yeah, it does sound like a studio wankery kind of thing, which it's fine. They're gonna do that. That's what that is the mode that they're in. Yeah, I agree. This is a little bit too slow of a song. I'm not sure if this is true. I saw it on Wikipedia, but never in the books that I read. That this is a song about Mike Mills who liked to sleep late. I like to think of
like Peter Buck sleeping late, not Mike Mills.
What?
It feels like Peter Buck would be the one who sleeps late.
Peter Buck seems like he would be the sleepy boy because of the parties. I like to think of Mike Mills just being a sleepy boy.
I like to think of him as being sleepy in a Snorlax sense, but I bet you he's up at 7 a.m. like
I don't know, making
coffee and like reading the comics.
Yep. Oh, Dennis the Menace.
Yeah. Just like, what do you get? Oh, look at this, the Family Circus kid's on their way through town again. And his ghost grandpa is chasing him.
Yeah, with an axe. What happened to Ghost Grandpa?
His dead grandpa wants to catch him.
Let me trace the dotted line with the tip of my finger.
Yeah. Ooh, now he's gone through another yard.
See, I want Mike Mills to be a sleepy boy because I'm a sleepy boy.
Yeah.
I want to feel like it's all okay.
But you don't sleep then.
No,
like you wake up pretty early. Like sometimes we'll be recording. You're like, man, I slept in till like 10:30.
Yeah,
like that's not sleeping in, bro.
I suppose
that's the AM.
I guess that is the AM. I don't know. The video for this looks like something that would be production designed to be on the TV in the background of a movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they're watching a music video. It is frantically animated abstract images. It doesn't do too much for me because if you see a 10-second loop of it, it feels like you've seen all of it.
Yeah. It's not particularly great. Right. The video. We're gonna get into some good videos, but that's not it.
No.
You Are the Everything is the third song, and this is much more like a traditional R.E.M. song, I think.
Yes.
They're kind of back in that minor key.
Yeah.
Mode.
I like this song an awful lot.
Yeah, this is really good.
I think the lyrics are kind of heartbreaking in a lot of ways, especially talking about sleeping in the back seat and talking about this this older relative. Lyrically, it's incredibly powerful. This is also the first kind of appearance of a mandolin driven song on the record.
Yeah, and it works really well for it.
Yeah.
That like falling asleep in the back seat thing is a universal experience, and like,
yes.
And he's like Michael Stipe was talking about people coming up to him being like, I can't believe somebody wrote a song about that, because it's a weird thing that there's not that I think are like most people have experience with, but is not talked about very much.
Yeah.
Here's
the scene: you're in the backseat lying down, the windows wrap around, the sound of travel in the engine. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Just it is a powerful sense memory, and it could be trite to just evoke that thing that is universal, but I think that it is delivered. And there's something about the way his voice cracks in this song that is that I think is especially raw.
Yeah. Like, and I'm scared for this world. I'm scared for me. Like, it's really like, it's very direct.
Right.
And stuff. This is a very pretty song.
Yeah. With the exception of the line, and you're drifting off to sleep with your teeth in your mouth.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like that.
I like it too.
But it's not direct and stuff. It does feel like a filler line. Like you have to fill syllables a little bit, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Next Stand is the kind of the big single from the record. It was the second single, but I think this is the song that I feel like everybody knows.
Yeah, because everybody has seen Get a Life starring Chris Elliott.
Yes. Yeah, which I wish they had. Yeah. The show's very funny.
It's really good.
The anecdote in the book is that they licensed this to them just based on the title.
Yep.
They just thought Get a Life was a funny thing.
That's a really good name for a thing. Green Stamp. Yeah. This is an incredibly simple song. If you're not being charitable, you could call it insipid. If you are kind to it, like I am, I really enjoy this song. You could say that it is that it is playful and actually like really kind of deceptive.
Yeah, and again, that kind of like those fakey fake profundity thing, where like this if you start thinking of this in terms of it being about presentness, like those lyrics that are kind of again below consideration, like you wouldn't think of like just be where you are. Like that's like a good thing. Like that's a meditation thing. That's like something that's like, and I don't know if that's necessarily what he's going for, but it reminds me of the same kind of things that happen in like guided meditation. Yeah. Like your feet are on the ground, like recognize your space.
Yeah.
That you're in, and like that being a kind of a powerful idea.
Yeah. If it's okay for the Beatles to say that he's got feet down below his knees, you can talk about these guys can talk about your feet being on the ground.
Totally. If the Beatles can just say, my name, look up the number for like just like a really long time, then this is also okay.
Yeah. But then like embedded in this song that is literally just about directions and your position relative to them, they have something, they have a line, if wishes were trees, the trees would be falling. Yeah. Oh my God, man.
Yeah. Yep. It's in. Yeah, this is a real good song. Yeah, super catchy.
I love the circus, like almost calliope or organ that's happening in the back of this. The guitar line, like they call this like a really like stupid simple guitar line, but no, it's actually like really fun. Yeah,
it's fine and good. Yeah. There's a demo that is the slow dirge, because when you hear Stand, you want to hear like stand in the place where you like this like death march.
I almost want to think that like the video that you sent over to me, because Gary does most of the research for this, I want to think that was just on an incredibly stretched out tape.
Yeah, that would be great if that were true. Yeah. However, it's too in key. It's like the guitar is playing the right chords.
Oh man.
It's really rough. Yeah. It's like would be a really shitty way to do it. It's like some high school band doing an ironic version of it. Like what if we took this happy song and made it sad?
Yeah. What if we took Imagine and played it in minor key, where a perfect circle?
Oh man. But this is a great song. Bob Mackie karaoke standard.
Oh yeah. While drunk, I have imposed as the background vocal, because it is one of those ones that like the next line will overlap on the other one.
Yeah, it also has a terrible guitar solo with wah pedal,
because they decided to just really lean into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's make something stupid. And then later, this is one-upped in the next album where they do Shiny Happy People, where there's a part where, like, Michael Stipe heard that and he was like, we have a song that makes Stan seem like, the 1812 Orchestra or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
And that is a very funny bit of self-awareness to just go for it.
My favorite detail about this song is the fact that it changes key twice. Again, that is a stupid pop song kind of convention, just let's do the last let's just modulate up for the last chorus. They do two choruses on the way out, and they just go up, I think, a half step, and then they go up a full step.
Yeah.
I'm just, call me simple if you want. I really like false stops in songs, especially when you look at something like the Eagles of Death Metal, which in one song have like 3 false stops, I think. And also like them leaning into that kind of standard. It's like, yeah, we're just going to do it twice. Come on. It's the illusory wall behind the illusory wall.
Yeah. Yeah. The video features some dorks. Like if you want to see some real, like the kind of dork we don't really get anymore.
Endangered dorks.
Yeah. Like I feel like we've updated dorks.
Yeah.
And these are the new dorks
now.
These are the old dorks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is like, it's like when you watch those Everything is Terrible videos and you see like 80s guys for video dating services and shit. And it's like, they don't make that kind of dork anymore.
No,
that's these kind of dorks.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying if Mike Mills walked into a time machine from 1989 into today, he would be drowning in pussy juice. Like, just
probably true.
Yeah.
Just like, man, that guy's so normcore. I gotta get it.
But yeah, it's a bunch of dorks doing like a very basic, like, almost you would imagine this being a 1960s dance instructional song.
Yeah, everybody do the funky stipe or so, whatever, like that.
Yeah, they are kind of stipe dancing, especially with holding their elbows toward their body and then just doing like a forearm rotate.
Yeah, that's a real stipe move. It's a fine video. It's kind of goofy, but it's not super strong. The only time the band shows up is they're doing a monkey style slow motion jump over a ditch.
I love that it just cross dissolves between them as they complete the motion.
Yeah,
it's like an Animorphs cover.
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine if Michael Stipe turned into Bill Berry? Hello.
There's not enough biomass in Michael Stipe to make the hair
He'd be hollow, like a chocolate bunny. Next up, this World Leader Pretend, which when I was a young man, this was my favorite R.E.M. song ever.
Mm-hmm.
I still love this song, but I may burn myself out on it or something. My taste have changed a little bit, but this used to be my favorite R.E.M. song.
It's incredibly lyrics first.
Yes.
In a way, like I was very surprised to hear you say that, but people's tastes change and the way they engage with the music changes. It's musically satisfying, but it is very much a bed for Michael Stipe to kind of tell this story and to lay out these kind of insecurities with the way things are going.
Yes. Yeah. And musically it is it's no slouch.
Right.
So it's not like, it's a disaster there. This was, I think the reason why this appealed to me so much is because it was the first R.E.M. song where they had the lyrics printed on the liner notes.
Yep.
I remember reading about it, and the reason why was because he uses the word raise in 2 different ways. Because you raise a wall like an Amish person might, and then you raise a wall like somebody who's destroying a wall might.
Yeah, R-A-Z-E. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how that goes. But this is, I think this is a really good song. I still like the lyrics, which are like disaffected in a way I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And are very like clinical. It's like notes from a court trial or something like that. Like
I decree a stalemate.
Yeah. He's just decreeing things and declaring things. And like when you start, I've talked about this a lot on this show and other shows where we talked about music, but when lyrics start doing those conventions of kind of like meta conventions, like say, like talking like you're at a podium. Mm-hmm. When you're doing a lyric, like I like that a lot.
Yeah, and not to swipe, some points from the next episode, but like that is something that is definitely a thing that I love about Losing My Religion. Consider this. Like it is a rhetorical argument that is made to a third person who is not present.
Yes, and that cummed up. Jesus Christ. that came up. That got all cummed up when we did.
Oh no, we cummed up the works.
We cummed up the works in the last episode of Try This. We talked about Dragon Slayer.
Yes,
which features a lot of that kind of thing, God, and that's just a lyrical device. I
listened to I listened to Dragon Slayer 3 times on my recent trip back home to Mansfield.
Really good.
Yeah,
excellent record.
Yeah. But yeah, I love. I guess it feels like a bridge to me. Doesn't seem as smart to me.
Mhm.
It feels like a bridge to me. But but this is my mistake. Let's make it good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Part of the chorus, like on the lyrics.
Slide guitar in the bridge.
Yeah. Oh man, that just slide guitar melts my heart.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Like this is an excellent song.
Yeah.
Probably like objectively the best song on the record, even if it's not like my favorite. Like I think the song is really good.
It's incredibly well constructed. Probably because it does feel like they are working in their old kind of style. It feels very R.E.M, which is a meaningless statement, but it's one that we make an awful lot here. So
yeah.
You fill in the mortar, you fill in the harmony. Yeah. Very good. Very poetic. Like the everything that I read was like, oh my God, Document is Michael Stipe at his lyrical best. It's no.
That's actually him at his worst, actually. Well, actually,
the thing you like is bad. Oh no, it's
but the thing we like is good. Yeah. This side ends with a song called "The Wrong Child."
Yeah.
Which I also like.
Oh no!
I like it.
Oh, Gary, this is my hiccup.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't like this.
I actually found my hiccup in looking at the thing. This is definitely not my hiccup. I think that this has that kind of like there are weird direct vulnerabilities in these lyrics that I like a lot.
Okay.
And I like when Michael Stipe stretches his voice past cracking, which happens like at the end of the song, and I think that's a really really good moment. I think that like I'm not supposed to be like this. That's a universal idea. Mm-hmm. Like as a kid, like this is not how I'm supposed to be, but it's okay. And then the okay question mark that comes after that is as good a couplet as he's done.
Yeah.
Like that's very effective to me. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make it like my favorite, but it redeems it for me.
Yeah. I wish this wasn't so discordant. Like I get a little bit of a 9/9 problem with it where like, I understand, it just doesn't listen well to me. For me, it just, there's something about the looseness of the instrumental harmonies and the vocal harmonies that just they're enough out of norm to make it actually really hard to like look at the genuinely sweet lyrics, as a poem about how awful it is to be, a differently abled child. Like, yes, that is an incredibly powerful idea. His presentation of it is incredibly good. I just don't think that it just doesn't
work as a song.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Like, I mean, I understand that. Yeah. It's not my favorite song on the record or anything, but it's something where just the redemptive aspects of it are stronger than the negative aspects for me.
Yeah. I mean, so I know what you're saying. Better than Radio Free Europe, the defining song of R.E.M.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say this is like 10 Radio Free Europes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big issue with this is that it has, and you say this about a later song, but I think this just has too much musically in common with the You Are the Everything, The Wrong Child, and Hair Shirts of this album. Those three songs that kind of form a piece. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit too much to have three of them. This is the one I would drop as well.
Yeah.
If I were dropping them, but like it's still, I still like that it's there. It's an 11 song album. Like it's not like it doesn't feel bloated to me.
Oh, true. Yeah. I just I was, on going back and listening to this because again, in the past, like, let's say 15 years, I've stopped listening to R.E.M. albums in full until this show started up and just kind of picked and chose between stuff. And I was super delighted on my re-listen through this to see like, oh, there's no rough patches up to this point. And then you get this and it's like, oh no, what are you doing?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like catastrophic to me.
No.
But I mean, I get what you mean. When we talk about the disabled kid, there's an author named Chris Nolan who wrote a book called Under the Eye of the Clock.
Yes.
Which was about being a physically disabled. And but I think the lyrics I think are kind of universal.
Yes.
With that. This is the last Air song, and we switch over to the metal side to talk about another famous R.E.M. song that I feel like a lot of people already know, which is Orange Crush.
Yes, this is a transplant from Document.
Yes, and it's very clearly so. Like we've heard them play it on the tour, and it sounds like a Document song to me.
Yes, even like not just the subject matter, but the presentation, the way the instrumentation, like it doesn't feel like it fits in here. It's not bad. It's not a bad song. I like the song just fine.
Orange Crush is fine.
Yeah.
Like the chorus, I didn't realize how like muddy and weird the chorus was until I played it on Rock Band.
Yep.
And realizing like, oh, this is really nothing.
Yeah.
Like this part doesn't have a like.
Roof. Yeah.
Like this doesn't have a spine.
No.
Like you lost your spine. You lost your Orange Crush. Like it's, like it's just this weird, like there's not really a through line to that middle part. And it's kind of cool, but it's still like makes it suffer as a song to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the marching part of it, the actual like military samples feel really dated and shitty to me.
Yeah. I could do without the you do it all, you do it all, you do it all. Like him, like,
the marching stuff, which is like, I don't know.
It just feels like I watched Full Metal Jacket in 1986, and then I wrote this in 1987.
Yeah.
And
I just heard that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang or something like that.
Yeah. But like I love the drums. Like the drums on this are really great. The guitar line in this, especially the solo, or what passes for a solo, in this as an R.E.M. song without wah. Like everything about this aside from the vocals I think is really good, and even the chorus, like the not the chorus but the follow me don't follow me, like that call and response I think is good. Like that is a good kind of adaptation of the military call and response. It is just when they get hyper literal and kind of a little bit too cute that it wears out its welcome for me.
And it's just it's like one, like the verses of this are good. I think the chorus needs more and the bridge is bad. Like it just kind of like doesn't add up too much for me. The video is also very direct. Like, what if there were people preparing for war? What if there were children next to them?
Yes.
Okay, Kojima, child soldiers, I get it. Like, let's move on, please.
Yeah. If there's anything that's cool about it, they just wholesale lift cinematic techniques from Apocalypse Now, specifically in revealing faces through opening up lights. Or like having a face or somebody move into a light out of shadow and it just kind of reveals them like they're coming out of water. Like that is cool and good. That is an interesting visual technique, but like it is of that stripe of REM videos that tells a story, but it is just like full on montage theory. What if thing was next to thing?
Yeah. Which again, the things are just too direct. The next song. So this is my loser for the album is Turn You Inside Out.
It's so dated. Oh
yeah. This is pretty rough. I actually like and he does this in Orange Crush too, but live he sings this through a megaphone, which is a sound I always really like. Like I actually love the distortion of megaphone.
Yeah, well, you're just a big fan of Mr. Show.
I am. I'm one of the big fan of the Monsters of Megaphone Crooning. But this is just like the backing vocals. Like the part, I don't think there's like R.E.M. that, I mean, there is because there's a radio song, but it sounds as dated as the like, I believe in what you do. I believe in watching you. Like that, like is just like musically dated in this weird way. It's not even the production. It's just like a melody and backup vocal that wouldn't happen in 1989. Like, I don't know. Like it feels like it started dated in this weird way.
Yeah. The guitar on this has some kind of reverb. There is something that is done to the guitar and also to the snare, like how the snare is mic'd, that says like I can tell exactly when this was produced.
Yeah. and it's that weird, like every once in a while when Michael Stipe is trying to be badass, he gets amelodic in a way that I don't care for.
Yeah.
And just the chorus of this is like it's just like it's so, everything is too close to each other. The melody is not very dynamic. And that just is never gonna do too much for me.
Yeah.
It reminds me of later, like it's the same way that like I feel like the chorus of like Bang and Blame is just not dynamic enough.
Yeah.
That's just a move. Like there's just not a space between those notes to be a melody, really.
Yeah.
It's just like a chant. And that's less interesting to me, or less appealing to my ears, I guess.
Yeah. And that's just a place where we differ, but we can both agree, like, Turn You Inside Out, like, the only reason that this isn't my, like, okay, this is the bad, this is the worst, is that it does function a little bit as a song in a way that The Wrong Child does not, but, like, it's pretty close. They're just kind of competing virtues and advantages that set each other off in a way that leans more towards this for me.
For me, it is like they're both kind of like experimentally produced, and one of them is an interesting failure, and one of them is an uninteresting failure.
Yeah, this is really plotting as well.
Yeah. And a lot of that's just my sensibilities. Like I'm not going to like a plod chant very much.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And just, it doesn't feel so, again, the lyrics feel a little bit like a cast off from Document. I could turn you inside out by doing nothing, or but with what I choose not to do, or something like that. Like it just feels like, you know, and this is confirmed by the fact that Michael Stipe, when he would perform this live, would get up and say, this is dedicated Exxon Mobil or something like that. It's just like, I don't know what you're saying. And also Michael Stipe was incredibly frustrated that people thought that this was a song about fucking.
Yeah, which I mean, gross. You know, it reminds me a lot of like Kurt Cobain, like in the horror he felt when he like those kids did like a sex assault and sang "Rape Me" to it, you know, and how gross that is. And it's just like that. I'm sympathetic to the idea of having your work. You know, it's like the Pepe problem, right? Like we don't own things once we make them. Shitheads will just take everything and ruin it, you know. But it's not like this was not super good to begin with, I think.
Yeah.
So. But again, there's 11 songs on the album. I don't think you could really do without it. And for a quote unquote metal side, we have like 2 rocker numbers, a mid-tempo dirge that rocks, and then 2 other super softy songs.
Yeah.
So the metal side is actually the thing that kind of didn't come through on here. So I could see them kind of needing it for the theming.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know? Yeah. Hair Shirt is next. I love this song. I think this is again, like in just those couplets that I think are like for a romantic idea. Like I'm not the type of dog that could keep you waiting, I think is one of like my favorite couplets.
Yeah.
As like a, you know, kind of abstract, but also very sweet sentiment.
Yeah.
To me.
Talking about like, oh, I could hang my hair shirt, or, you know, feed me banks of light and hang your hair shirts on the lowest rung. Like, you know, like that a hair shirt is a kind of obscure idea. Like it exists mostly as a euphemism, you know, for like something that you carry around to punish yourself. Like I think lyrically, this is an incredibly vulnerable song. Yeah.
Just that kind of like subsistence to another person, you know, and it's really strong for that. Like I really love this song.
Yeah.
This is a fave. This is out of this trio of these kind of, you know, traditional R.E.M. songs are on this record.
Yeah.
Is my fave.
Yes. Your Shirt is very good. Musically, it's a little, it lies a little flat for me, especially because it does feel like it restarts in a couple of places.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to structure out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like a, you know, 2.5 minute, 3 minute song. And it really just kind of does the same part kind of moving back, and, you know, the same part that kind of just kind of develops in a weird way. You know, it doesn't have like kind of distinct choruses really.
Yeah. I Remember California. I like the song a lot. This is super menacing R.E.M., you know, which I'm always going to be kind of down for. And I love just like, again, playing these super low notes on the guitar, and just when Peter Buck is kind of infringing on Mike Mills's space with the bass.
Yeah, I like that song. I think that it's kind of a weird, like, I think it's made with the musical chorus. Kind of thing, like after he does the I Remember This, and then the riff kind of comes back. The like the low guitar riff I'm into. It
like, to me it sounds like he's taking cues from like Angelo Badalamenti or something like that. Like the like this sounds a little bit like extra menacing Twin Peaks music to me. That's
a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
Like for me, this is a middling song on the record.
It's
like
not my favorite,
either great,
sure.
but yeah.
I'm happy they didn't end on it, because it doesn't fit in with most of the album actually.
No, because it's kind of them trying to do that darkness that they did with the Document cast-offs on this record, but like it's a different kind of dark. It's like a dark that I think that actually what this song does well is done so much better in Country Feedback.
Yep.
In the next album. So like this is one of the very few R.E.M. songs where I feel like I can point to a song that does what it tries to do and just does it so much better.
Yeah.
You know, so like this is still good. I don't skip it when I'm listening to it, but you know, Country Feedback is a more successful attempt at the idea, I think.
Yeah, Country Feedback is amazing. I look at this song and I think this obviously would have come from Fables. Like,
yeah,
you know, and not just because it talks about geography and what grows in places, but like looking at it, it's like if they had written this 5 years earlier, it really would have, you know, popped on that album, I think.
Yeah, even though Fable is like, I think that's true, but I also think that the dark stuff on Fables is like, and one of the things when we revisited that is it's more dynamic than it initially sounds.
Yes.
Right. So like it would have been produced differently, that I maybe would have liked the Fables version a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Like if they had added the kind of strings and had some little bits of like, because, you know, as good as Feeling Gravity's Pull is, like the triumphant moment where the strings kind of break out of the, you know, the depths at the end is like a really great moment. And I think the song kind of just doesn't do that.
Right.
Which I would have liked this to break out of its thing a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's still good. Like this is still a good song, but I would have appreciated that a little bit more. And it's still, it's those I statements, those just kind of like real basic declarative, like, I remember this.
Yeah.
This is a thing that was there. Like,
which is something that Michael Stipe had avoided doing for years and years, but he, has started doing, more now.
Yes.
Like actually, like he never wanted anything to be in the first or second person, avoiding I and you, and that is kind of peppered all over this.
Yeah, and he just kind of stopped that.
Yeah.
And this ends with an untitled track. It's not quite a classic hidden track.
Right.
Like it doesn't show up on the liner notes, but it doesn't show up on the actual tape, and it showed up on the disc.
Right.
It never had a title, but it showed that it was there, so it's not completely a hidden song.
Right.
Yeah.
This is fun. There's not an awful lot to like recommend it as far as like a hook that comes out. There are interesting production stories that happen because like Peter Buck plays drums on this. Again, them getting out of their comfort zones. He only plays it because the part that he directed Bill Berry to play was so bad and undrummer like that Berry couldn't play it correctly.
Yeah, again, that theming of musical naivete.
Yes. Like
for this record, because this is a good song. This is a sweet kind of campfire.
Yeah,
song.
It's got this call response to it that is really cool, and it's a very positive song as well. It's like, hey, even if stuff is bad, like hopefully this music or any kind of art can make you feel better.
And that was, we didn't really talk about that, but Michael Stipe set out to do that.
Yes. With
this album, like the idea was to make an uplifting album, after Document.
Right.
So this is probably the most clear thing that is related to that. Yeah, and it's a very sweet song. There's not a whole lot to say. It's very simple.
Yeah. I was talking like directly. The subject is, Michael Stipe or the main character of the song speaking to somebody and saying like, hey, take care of this person while I'm away. Hold her and keep her strong while I'm away from here. Yep. Hold him and
Very, very sweet.
It's very good. It's a good album closer. Like I'm happy it didn't close on I Remember California.
Yeah, oh yeah. And so it's a real good album too.
Yeah.
Like do you want to do first and worsts?
Yeah. So my worst is going to be it's going to be the
Wrong Child.
Yeah, the Wrong Child. There we go.
Yeah. So we already kind of did worsts.
Yes. Man, my firsts are actually it's really hard to pick because it might be like a tie or something approaching a tie between You're the Everything and Pop Song 89.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Stand It Off a lot, but just with these firsts, I try not. I don't really want to go for the most obvious thing. Like hint on Out of Time, I'm probably not going to say Losing My Religion is the first,
even though that song is a ridiculous triumph on actually revisiting it.
Yeah, it's so
like,
amazing.
There's a reason why that song is as successful as it is.
Yeah.
And so like I think that depending on the mood I'm in, like if it's so my first, like my instinct first would be Pop Song 89. And then my like non-instinct first, like if I'm in like a lyric mood, like it would be Hair Shirt.
Yeah.
I love the
You're the Everything.
You are not You're the Everything. The World Leader Pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's the other one that you said, right?
No, the other one was You're the Everything.
Yeah. I love World Leader Pretend as well though. But it's a little bit long for me. Like it's a 5.5 minute song, and I think that it gets its point. It just meanders a little bit for me. So it'd be one of those two things.
Yeah.
But as far as like big singles from this, I think they were both in agreement that Pop Song 89 is the winner.
Oh yeah.
And it's criminal that is not like, like on the radio still.
Yeah.
Yeah. But really good. It is hard to decide because it's a good record. Like the batting average is very good.
It really is. It's not as flashy, as some of the albums that we talked about or will talk about. The highest highs are not that much higher than the mids.
I think that not the highest highs on this are not as high as the highs are not as high as the highest highs on Life's Rich Pageant.
Yeah.
But the mids on this are about as high as the highs on Document.
Yes.
With the possible exception of like It's the End of the World as We Know It.
Right.
For me, at least for my money, like it is. This is just such a better album than that album. And just the idea that when it came out and people just being like, yeah, this is not critically very good and you guys sold out and suck. Now it's like, man, you fuckers heard Document? Like, I don't know what. Like, are you actually listening to this?
Yeah. Or like, or were you happy that was the road that they reached the furthest extent on?
Yeah. And for me, it is just such a. If I was listening to this in real time, if I was like these albums are coming out, and I was listening to them, this would just feel like oh man, like this would be my Miyazaki's back moment. Like,
yeah. Talking about the Dark Souls series. Yeah.
Yes. There's lots of weird B-sides and rarities.
Yes.
For this, and I did my best to get all of them. I didn't. There are references to lots of songs that I couldn't find recordings of, and there are weird bootleg sites and stuff that have them that require you to sign up for an account, or like they're like, do it through this downloading service. You can do the 7-hour download, or you can give us all your information for the 3-minute super slam.
Yep.
And so I did not do that.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't see fit to infect our computers by going to look at those, but there is still so much when it comes to these demos and the audios and such. We've already talked about some of those, like the strange demos for Stand. Those exist, and they're not very advised, I think.
No. I'm glad that I didn't go on to like bootleg.net and download a virus to get them.
Right.
I'll just find them in YouTube. A bunch of those will be in the show notes. We didn't get all of them, but we're going to talk about the ones that we can.
Man, you're not even beating Dark Eater Mid-Year, and now you're not even downloading these songs.
Yes. What the fuck? There are 4 songs that are very specific, also rans that they didn't do for this. They didn't have, didn't write lyrics for. I was able to find 2 of those.
Yep.
One of them is called Title, which is that a working title?
I don't know.
I bet you it is.
Yeah.
And this actually, I think it is was played live.
Yes.
For them.
All of the recordings that exist of this are very bad, so it's hard to tell if this is Stipe or a Stipe-alike.
Yes, yeah. I think it is Stipe.
Yeah.
So I think this is legit. I'm not totally sure, but I think so. It might not be, though. It's kind of tricky. I think so. But yeah, this is not particularly good. They said it was too R.E.M-y, and I don't know if I think that's really what it is. I think it's just needed a lot more time in the oven.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like R.E.M. doing their Gang of Four impression a little bit. And there are parts of it, especially in the chorus of the song, that sounds actually pretty similar to Orange Crush a little bit. So it's possible that they maybe harvested some of that to bring it forward. Like, they were playing this in 1987, so it might have been developed around the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's kind of more interesting, and I didn't put this in the notes I sent you, Cole, because I didn't realize it until I was preparing to record.
Okay.
The other one of those ones I found, this Great Big, that's that song. It's like, that kind of funk song. There's a studio version of that is one of the B-sides for Out of Time. That's like the one non-album track that's the B-side demo. That's just like untitled. So they were working on that song from this point forward as well.
Yes.
A song called Great Big. But there's the shitty like version that'll be in the show notes here, but there is a studio recorded version of that. So I got pretty far in the process.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
Before it was discarded, which is unfortunate because it's not very good. I don't think.
No, which is fortunate or unfortunate? I think it's fortunate that it didn't see the light of day.
It did, yes.
Okay.
Fortunate that it was drowned in a river at birth.
So yeah, I just like, I can give them a pass on You Can't Get There From Here, because that was, I don't know, aping something earlier. You listen to this instrumental version, and it sounds like them trying to be Red Hot Chili Peppers a little bit.
It's you can just imagine the slight vocals that would go over it. I just it's a little
no.
And this is actually kind of an interesting thing because this has happened as we've moved forward. Since there were a couple songs in Life's First Pageant, we talked about some of those also rans that should have been on the album. As they move forward, the things that don't make it on the album feel more like they shouldn't have made it on the album.
Yeah.
As opposed to earlier on where I was like, man, I wish they had done,
if you say Ages of You, I'm going to be very upset.
Well, I mean, Ages of You is one of them. Like, I would have subbed that in for several songs on those first couple albums, or like That Beat or something like that. Like these, these studio demos, I think were like better songs than some of the stuff that ended up on the record. Now I think they're getting smarter about what they put on the record and what they don't. So like the things that feel like B-sides end up being B-sides. The things that, shouldn't be anywhere really don't end up anywhere. And it's only through like archaeology and bootlegging that you can find it at all.
Yeah. So it's hard to hold it against them. Like they developed it, they played around, good songs are made on the backs of, thousands of these.
Yes.
The fact that they committed them to tape should not be held against them for however not great, not great big is. Yeah. I kind of mixed up. So when you sent these over, Gary, I wasn't sure where the delineation between fan club singles and oddities
We're in now in a section of B-sides.
B-sides, yes.
B-sides up through Deck the Halls.
Okay, cool.
So these are B-side covers.
Yep. One of these is an Iggy Pop cover, which it is very strange to hear Michael Stipe try and do an Iggy Pop song.
Yep. Oh yeah, baby, baby. We want some. We want some. Like,
I didn't say Fred Snyder. I said Michael Stipe. Come on.
Well, he sings that line like that. That we want something. It's very Fred Schneidery.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. But just like this super creepy, Iggy Pop again doing this Doors thing of like, oh yeah,
like I'm Iggy Pop. I'm sexy. I'm not sentient beef jerky. Don't worry. Like
I am human.
Yeah, like I'm not a mask from Fury Road. I'm actually a person. Don't be scared of me, young female. Human, yeah, it's him being at his most skeezy. And this is on. It's not. I don't think it's on The Passenger. It's on the album. It's The Idiot. It's on the one that has The Passenger on it. It's the album before that. It's one of the Bowie produced ones.
Yeah.
Because the original version of the song. Is musically skeevy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like it's just like "Fum, baby, baby," like it's this like slow like honky tonk song.
Yeah,
and R.E.M. turned it into this like pop song.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of like it's a weird cover.
Yeah. It's worth listening to. Like it'll be in the notes.
Yeah,
not worth listening to. Is a couple of these.
This is rough.
Memphis Train Blues and Skin Tight.
Yeah, so skin tight is Skin Tight. We all know Skin Tight.
Yeah.
This is just them doing it live, and they're just fucking around.
Yeah.
Like this might as well be King of the Road, but for funk.
Yeah. And then Memphis Train Blues is just them saying, "Hey, remember when we did Hindu Love Gods?"
Yeah, do you remember the blues? I'm trying to forget the blues. I do not like Memphis Train Blues.
No.
Memphis Train. Fuck you. Like it's I dislike that immensely.
Yeah.
I also really like and this showed up on live sets as far back as I feel like maybe Fables. They did this Ghost Rider song.
So you also really like, or you also really dislike?
Oh, really dislike.
Okay, cool.
I dislike those songs.
You keep on saying the opposite of what you mean.
I don't mean to. I'm just trying to. I'm gaslighting you, Cole. I love this song about Ghost Rider that only has 2 chords.
Yeah. As far as covers of bands that wrote songs about superheroes, Superman, in a league of its own, Right.
Like it's about these all came in a box set called Single Action Green, and it was all the singles from this with their B-sides. It was a 4-disc thing with a poster, and I bought that. I found that at an old record shop, and I didn't know any of these B-sides. It was before like any kind of B-sides compilations had come out.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, like this is like 4 R.E.M. EPs I'd never heard before, and 90% of this I feel like is unlistenable.
Yeah.
Like it's all pretty bad. Like these are not good B-sides. Like that Iggy Pop cover is kind of fun. Memphis Train Blues is bad. Skin Tight is bad. Ghost Rider's real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was like an acoustic version of Pop Song 89. That's like, what would I care about an acoustic version of this?
It was already really good.
Yeah, and it's not like you're taking that song and stripping it down is not gonna like reveal new things about it.
No. Like, there's not much to it. Like that's kind of the point. Yeah.
Dark Globe, which is a Syd Barrett cover, which like Syd Barrett, when it comes to Pink Floyd, like I don't really like Pink Floyd, but I like the early Syd Barrett stuff, and I like Syd Barrett. I like weird psychedelic Pink Floyd. I actually like this song.
It's really good. It's a very raw piano ballad, is the way they treated it.
And he sings it in that like little kid voice, like it's very like innocent and vulnerable. Please take my hand. It's like he's kind of stretching for the notes.
Yeah.
In like a Kermit-y way that I kind of appreciate.
Michael Stipe is similar to Kermit, isn't he?
Yeah. Yay! Like he's doing a little bit of that. So I like the song quite a bit. It made me want to look up the Syd Barrett album it's from.
Yeah. Man, Syd Barrett's story. Like I just keep on going back and reading that. Yeah. Like just on his Wikipedia, or like getting interviews about the time he showed up when they were recording Wish You Were Here. Just completely physically transformed for the worse, just in a bad state. Like his story is really, really sad.
Yeah. It's a tragedy.
It's not a revelation to say that, but like I get fixated on that.
Yeah. It's very sad.
Yeah. Deck the Halls. This again is one of these fan club things. It was released as part of an IRS compilation. It is just them doing Deck the Halls.
Yeah.
It's not
IRS
controversial, I
getting
don't think. So I don't think that this is a controversial statement, but there might be somebody who says, "Aw, Christmas music is really bad."
Yeah, I think there will be tons of people who say, "Oh," but I'm actually with you.
Yeah.
So like at least we can present a unified front. Like I know tons of people who, man, my old office where I used to work, it'd be like, as soon as Halloween was over, it's like nonstop Christmas music for like 2 months, and it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, just I have biographical reasons for that too. Worked in a mall for 8 years.
Oh yeah, and the commercial, yeah,
and was in show choir for 6. And the fun thing about doing the Christmas time shows was going to different places and just fucking around and getting out of school. The bad part was the music that we had to sing.
There's I did like a dead idea of a hollow about it, like listening to retail Christmas mix. Like it was it's bad.
Yeah.
And Deck the Halls, I never need to hear again. Like how do people not get sick of this music? Like I know you only listen to it once a year, but like I don't know, like I don't need to eat. You listen to it a lot. Right? So it's like I don't need to eat an elephant a year a day during carnival season.
Right.
Like I need 2 funnel cakes a day from July through September.
Yes, I need a savory funnel cake for dinner and a sweet funnel cake for dessert.
And then a funnel shake for whatever I want.
Yep.
Yeah, funnel shake between meals. And that's it. Like I just don't understand how people don't get sick of this shit. And there are Christmas songs I actually kind of like more than others. But if I never heard another Christmas song in my life, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I never need it again. Including when R.E.M. does it, one of my favorite bands. So
yeah, no, and this is just super thrown off, like they just rattle it out. It's not they didn't pay extra special care with this.
No.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, it's in the oral history. They used to do these at one of their buddies' house when they were back in Athens. And they would take 2 days specifically to record their fan club stuff. So they would, and that's why these tend to be just Christmas songs and covers and shit. Because it's just like, hey, we happen to be here. Like, let's just knock off some stuff we know.
Yeah.
So it makes it sound like kind of tossed off, like, oh, we're just throwing the fans anything because they'll eat up whatever shit we happen to make. But some of the fan club stuff is actually very good.
Yes. Like this next thing, this Rocky Erickson song.
Yeah.
The I Walked with a Zombie.
The guy from the 13th Floor Elevators, like a really early psychedelic rock band.
Yeah.
I had to look that up. I didn't know that, but
yeah.
It's a good song. It's like, it's very basic, but it's real fun.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because like they all take turns singing the main line. Like it just goes over and over. It's a little bit like Shiny Happy People, actually, like what they would do later. Yeah. I know. So Rocky Erickson, Ockerville River actually produced one of his most recent albums, like back in like 2011 or something like that. It's kind of like, hey, this weird this weird missing Ockerville River album is a Rocky Erickson thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good song. Worth looking up.
Yeah. There are these other ones here. The Parade of the Wooden Soldiers. Super janky again. They have a melodica here.
It's only a melodica.
Yeah.
Like it's intolerable.
Yeah.
Like it's a tolerance test, and it's only like 2 minutes long. Like it's really hard to get through this. But the other thing they did for the fan club single, so that was the A-side. The B-side was them covering television.
Yeah.
It was them doing See No Evil, and I love that. I love See No Evil.
This is so good.
Call me a parody of myself, but like the first television album is a masterpiece, and like this is a really, really good song.
Yeah.
And they do a great job with it.
Yeah, they do something different. Like, I don't associate television with being super overproduced, but R.E.M. takes it and makes it really post-punky. Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's an excellent cover.
Yeah.
And there are other things from this time. This is also when because of the fan club and because they're kind of doing a lot of these little compilation things. I don't want to hear from nobody will do this. Like I always imagine the R.E.M. super fan that's
not enough people listen to do that.
Yeah, not enough people listen to that. But if that person exists, I don't want the person who's like, this B-side should have actually been talked about when you talked about Out of Time, as opposed to, because this is all kind of in the same kind of corridor, like the album's coming out, but even after the album comes out, they still tour it and support it, and like, so we're just kind of hitting everything chronologically, so pretty much just don't want to hear it in general. About the chronology of this, like we're getting to all the stuff that I could find, but
and if we miss stuff, like if there is like, oh my gosh, there's this amazing thing, like it might come up in a discussion on like a future Letters episode, like an errata and things like that. And like, if, and that goes for Gary, if you find something that you missed, or if I find something in a book that's like, oh man, this is really worth talking about, like that is when that will happen. So don't think that we completely missed the boat. Those will happen later.
Yeah. We currently, I think, I'd like to do 2 more of those, like one at the very end and another one in another few out, like 4 albums.
Yeah. Between Hi-Fi and Up.
Yeah. Yep. And then just one at the very end to do roundup, and then that's the episode. Yeah. Green, I love this era of R.E.M. I was 9 years old when this came out. It's crazy. It's like a very, very like young boy, didn't know shit.
Yeah.
And I love. I still like how it sounds today.
It's great.
Highly listenable.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well. I think that even as time has gone by, like, as the old stuff kind of just becomes singles, and as people have a dim view of things that came later, like just every possible opinion as take is dilated as time extends beyond. I think that if you haven't paid attention to Green in a while, because it is this weird thing that fits between Document, which was huge, and Out of Time, which was huge, like go back and like listen to it from front to back with like 1.5, maybe 2 exceptions. There's not a skipper on it.
Yeah. I think it's one of the more consistent albums.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What can people do if they like this show, Cole?
Please tell friends if you know people who enjoy music. If you like R.E.M. and people who might know the singles, spread the word. This is a show that doesn't have a tremendous amount of appeal within our regular audience. So the bulk of the burden for spreading the word is actually going to fall on you. Fall on you.
Yes.
No, we appreciate everybody who has spread the word, and people have said super nice things. We just want more people to listen. So we will repeat that call again. Help us spread the word.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that. And another way you can do that, if other than telling people, like ratings and reviews do help. Getting us up in those iTunes algorithms, because we are competing in like a kind of a different pool. So it'd be cool to be noteworthy in that music section. And then the other thing, the most direct thing you can do just to support the network in general and let us do vanity projects like this is support us on Patreon.
Yes.
If you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, you can give us a couple bucks a month. You get a bunch of cool stuff. That's going to be changing soon. Keep an eye out for all that, like kind of the particulars of it. However, it's always helpful to us, regardless of what you get in return and what we're working towards.
Yep.
It helps us take the time to do this, because it's not, we referenced this is a heavily researched show.
Yep.
For the listenership, this is a lot of work. Not to complain about it, because it's fun work. It's like some of the most fun work I do for the network, but it is, it takes a lot of time.
Yes.
And it's nice to have support for that time.
Yeah. I think that's about it. So stick around in 2 weeks. Okay, so move from where you're at. You don't need to sit still. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be back talking about Out of Time, continuing the Warner era. Gary, how do we end the show?
It's the end of the show as we know it.
And we feel fine. Wasn't as confident that time as we had
been,
but it's fine. Don't worry.